What's up, you guys? Steven back again, Magic Metal Money. Black Lotus, baby, is going for $1 million. Let's see it. Let's see $1 million Black Lotus. In case you guys aren't aware, in case you couldn't pick it up on the thumbnail, there's a Black Lotus Alpha PSA 10 Gem Mint signed by the late great Christopher Rush. It's on eBay right now for over $310K right now. Will this bad boy reach $1 million? We'll find out. We've got 5 days left. We'll see. So, for those of you who are unaware and maybe not super familiar with Magic, an Alpha Black Lotus from 1993, original printing, is the most rare, the most iconic card ever. There will never be any card more valuable than an Alpha Black Lotus. That's just as simple as it gets. There were only 1,100 printed in in English, whatever, in the world. Did Alpha even have other languages? I think Alpha was just English. Whatever. There are only 1,100 ever printed. And back in the 90s, kids, they might have played with these things on the sidewalks. Some of them, left them at school. Teachers got mad and teachers would ban them. Parents would rip up cards, and inevitably some of those were Black Lotuses, right? They didn't know. It didn't even have a rarity stamped on it. You didn't know. Most kids didn't know if your Black Lotus was a common or a rare. They knew they hadn't seen very many of them, and they thought it was lame, like, oh, it just makes mana, and you sacrifice it, and it's a little flower. People didn't understand fully, and then people picked it up, like, okay, this is the most powerful card ever. Way too powerful. It breaks all the rules. Even if you don't know anything about Magic, you don't need to. Just know it's the most iconic, powerful card. Only 1,100 printed. And, even if, let's say we take a time machine back and we open all 1,100 right now, they're not all going to be PSA 10s, right? Even if we take them straight, we put on our nice white gloves and we open them carefully with razor blades on the packaging and open them all carefully and lay them all out there in a clean room. We ain't going to have all PSA 10s, right? This was back in the day with Alpha. I mean, even today, printings aren't all perfect. There's always errors in printing, with these huge rollers and sheets of paper. There's centering gets off, right? The things that go into this being a PSA 10, they're pretty rare, especially for Alpha cards, even if you're not talking about age and human play and wear and tear. Just straight from the packs, they weren't all 10s. They might be off-center, they might be miscut, there could be some folding, some crinkling, some bending. So you got to realize a PSA 10 is just unheard of for a Black Lotus. One sold last year for about $250,000, like $250,000. And when I saw this one being listed, but this one is signed. The one last year was not signed. And with Christopher Rush no longer being with us, there's never going to be any more. There's never more of these going on the market. There's never more of these to be created. There can never be more signed PSA 10 Black Lotuses than what exists right now, which is probably like 5. Like, honestly, I'd be surprised if there were 5 PSA 10s signed by Christopher Rush, the artist of the card. I'd be surprised if there were 5 of those in the entire world. The fact that this one's going for sale, I saw it and I thought, this is going to reach $500,000. I truly think that. $1 million, maybe not. Okay, cue the Dr. Evil, whatever. $1 million, cool. But I could see it reaching $500,000. It's already at 310, and we got 5 days left or so on this auction. So here's the real question: who on earth is gonna spend $500,000, or maybe not even that much? We'll just say it goes for $350,000. Who's gonna spend $350,000 on a Magic card? Okay, that sounds like insanity, but you got to remember, millions of people have played Magic. I mean, there are millions of current active players, and most people who play Magic, they go in and out of the game. They say, hey, I played for a little while and I stopped it. I mean, myself, I started playing in the 5th grade, and I played and then I stopped. And then I started playing a little bit in junior high and I stopped. And a little bit in high school and I stopped. And then finally in college, I started playing, and I haven't stopped playing for like 6 years now. But, I was on and off until I became like a true player for 7 years. I was familiar with the game and in and out of the game. There are millions of people like that. So first of all, the game is huge. So keep that in mind. And also, the game is so old that people who played it when they were younger are now old. You know what I mean? Like, people who played it when they were... I'm almost 30, and I started playing in 2000. I was barely born when that game started. I was 2 years old when that game came out. So there are people who were, 10, 15, 20 years old when that game came out, and here we are 27 years later, and they're in their 40s and 50s. a lot more people have some disposable money, and they say, hey, if I'm going to buy this luxury money, right, and you could call it an investment or really a way to store wealth, not really like a whatever. It's not like a traditional investment, but it is a way to store wealth. And they say, hey, you know what? I've got, $1 million in cash. They have their other investments. They have their property. They own their home. They got $1 million in cash. And then they say, I'm going to put 300, 400K in this magic card as a way to store wealth and a way to freaking flex. You know what I'm saying? Like, it is the most rare. Even people who've never heard of magic have heard of a Black Lotus. Like they've heard of Magic the Gathering. They don't know really anything about it. If there's nothing you know about it, you know about a Black Lotus. I mean, I remember being in a job interview for my first full-time job out of college, and I had Magic the Gathering on my resume in the personal section because it was fun, it was unique, something a little different, whatever. And the people interviewing me, Charlie, it was his name, he was like, hey, you played Magic. That's kind of weird to put on here. Black Lotus, right? He knew nothing about the game, but he knew Black Lotus. And along with a couple other cards. He's like, I didn't play it, my brother did, and I name dropped to look cool. People know what a Black Lotus is, and it's a way to just flex, man. I mean, there aren't very many, especially the difference between like a 9 and a 10 as far as rarity goes is just huge. I mean, it's really, really difficult to find a PSA rare 9. I mean, there's only 1,100 total, not none of those, and then you got to think of the wear and tear. How many have just disappeared? They've been destroyed. They no longer exist. And then there's, how many of those that are still left can be 10s? There's only a few. And to have one of those is a really rare thing. And you can put it on whatever type of, I don't know how you store that type of stuff on display. You got to think of you've been to the Louvre and they got the Mona Lisa, and it's like behind a clear piece of glass. It's like bulletproof and 10 inches thick, and it's like in this huge wall. Is that what you have to do? I don't know. But you got to have a way to display it, but also keep it secure at the same time. But it's a flex, man. I mean, it's a flex. It's something, it's a talking piece, and you got to put yourself in the mind space of a millionaire. I mean, millionaires are made every day in this country. I mean, we've been in a bull market for like a decade, right? Millionaires are made every single day. So there's been thousands and thousands of new millionaires made over the last decade, over the last 27 years since Magic came to be. They have money, and they want you put yourself in that mindset. You can buy like a rare painting. You start buying different things. That your shopping habits change for a lot of really wealthy people, especially if you're a little bit more materialistic. So the idea of storing it and being able to have a $300,000 collectible that's extremely rare. I mean, a rookie Mickey Mantle card gets with $5 million or something. There's rarity, there's conversation pieces. People will talk about it. You're hosting your party with caviar and everyone's in their tuxes, and it's the Great Gatsby up in here, your party, and people walk by and they see the Black Lotus on the wall behind this crazy 3-inch bulletproof glass, and they say, "What's this?" It's a talking piece for them, right? It's this high society, and people store wealth in different ways, and people collect different high-value items. So, people used to collect rare, fine art. People still do, right? But that's kind of like old money. You know what I mean? You got to be like in your Victorian mansion, in the the countryside of New England, and you've been, you're a Rockefeller. You've been rich for generations. Like, you can't really have super rare art, and that's kind of more old money. Like, you got to be really, really wealthy for that type of stuff, inherit stuff, And then there's more new money, right? So like in the 80s, a lot of people got rich off the stock market. There was a lot of new millionaires made, same thing as today. And new money, that's a different level of wealth. It's not the same. It's not the same as a Rockefeller. So actually, rare maps in the 80s took off, and that became like a collectible. Like, oh no, I'm not going to buy a Picasso because I'm not going to drain my entire net worth, but I'll spend $500,000 or whatever on the super rare map, like old. I mean, literally maps, rare old maps that you actually used to be able to find them in libraries. It's crazy. There was a guy who would go into libraries, know what he's looking for. He would cut them out of the library books and steal them and go sell them. Super interesting stuff. Anyway, people of different generations are going to have different collectibles. So yes, it used to be Renaissance and paintings and things like that. And those are still valuable. Those haven't gone away, but not everyone can be in that. Not everyone's a billionaire, right? So then there's millionaire status of, hey, in the 80s it was maps. And now it's like, hey, I'm not a billionaire, but if I'm worth 5 million, then yeah, I can put aside $500,000, 10% of my net worth, which is crazy to think about, but you could do that in this one collectible, right? That's the idea. You got to think people have money, but they might not have Picasso money. So, and they might not have rare map money of saying, hey, this map is 500 years old, 600 years old, whatever. Christopher Columbus used this. When did he sail? 14, 18, 16? Whenever Columbus sailed. What, it doesn't matter. You get the idea. That's what people are doing. That's who buys this type of stuff. Fascinating stuff. Will it get to 1 million? Maybe. Maybe that was a little bit of a clickbait title. I don't know. We'll see. It could. No, it could. $500,000. Honestly, that was my first gut instinct. I saw that and I thought that'll go for $500,000. We'll see where it goes. It's been slowing down. The bidding frenzy slowed down over the last few days. Not a whole lot of action, but it'll pick up as auctions always do in the last 24 hours. I'll keep my eye on it. Probably post a follow-up quick little video, but we'll see where this goes. Thanks. So like and subscribe. We'll see you next time.